Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. I am very happy to have on with me my fellow Jedi, Mr. MTGJedi. We're going to be talking about faction wars and some sleeper champions that you might want to look at for each individual faction war. So that's our objective today, but I'm really excited because MTGJedi just had me on his channel. We were talking about the Ogre faction and, you know, some guides about how to do that. You guys know I've done most of a faction war series. I've gone through about 8 of the factions, so I still have some more of work on that to do, but this is going to be a nice little break. I do recommend going to checking his channel out, which I'll have pinned down below in the comments and description, whatever. But make sure to check it out because it's a very cool series he's doing, talking to a different content creator about each faction. I think it's actually a really cool concept. But hey, man, thank you so much for coming on. This is going to be a lot of fun. And I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm super pumped to be here as well. Thank you so much for having me on. You know, 2 Jedis. We're going to come up with some sweet champions for you today. I literally can't wait.
Yeah, this is going to be great. So let's just jump in. We'll go one faction at a time. The idea here is we're each going to name at least one sleeper champion. I'm sure we'll probably end up naming a second or a third just because that's how these things go. But we're going to try and keep it brief, try and keep it to the point here, and hopefully have a couple fun laughs on the way. So you ready?
Oh, yeah, I could not be more ready. I have so many sleeper champions. I'm super pumped.
All right, MTGJedi is already asleep. We are underway. Let's get going. Jump in here with Banner Lords. So name me a sleeper champion you have for this faction, my friend.
This is one of my favorite sleeper champions for any faction.
Oh.
And that is in the epic category, my dude, Seneschal.
Oh, that is a good sleeper. I like this one. He's actually a very good champion. That's a good call. So what about Seneschal is like your thing that you really get a
So beating this faction can be very challenging because there are a lot of terrible champions in this faction, so you might not have the best choices. There are a lot of champions to choose from, but getting that 3-star on level 21 is so hard sometimes because that boss is slicing through you like Swiss cheese. What Seneschal does is he provides that veil and continuous heal so the boss cannot target your champion. And there's very little healing in this faction, so the fact that he has a leech on his A1 also is really, really great.
It's very true.
Hidden secret number 3. Hidden secret number 3, he's got good multipliers. So you can actually build him for damage. And in my original clear of this faction, I actually used not 1, but 2 copies of this champion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see that being really, really useful. I agree, though. He's a really good champion. I remember I had a Septimus, one of my first legendaries I had on my account, and Seneschal kept Septimus alive. I mean, pretty much single-handedly. Just fantastic for that. Absolutely. You know, one of the challenges with this faction in particular is there's a lack of healing and a lack of revivers. The 2 biggest issues. For me, you know, the thing I'm always looking at, and you'll see this is kind of a thing, but I love ally protection. I think it's a great way to kind of keep your champions alive, especially in situations where you don't have a ton of healing, you don't have revivers. So I actually, you know, I know he said we're going to name 1, but I got 2 for you. One is going to be Myrmidon, who I think is just really, really cool kit. Obviously he has kind of a low base HP, so he's a little bit harder to keep alive, so better gear is going to have a bigger impact. But the fact that he has an ally protection with a continuous heal for himself is really, really strong. And it's a big ally protection. As a rare champion, that's pretty awesome. AoE decrease attack isn't too shabby, right? Provoke on the A1, like he's got some fun stuff in his kit that I think can really help a team stay alive out here.
Great call out there. I'm excited to hear your second one.
Well, it's a very similar type of thing. I think Azure is actually surprisingly good for this faction, primarily because while he does have a stun ability, I think on his A1, but he's got this ally protection and with a shield for himself on this A2. And having a shield, big shield with that ally protection means it's very hard for him to actually die from that ally protection, which is really, really helpful. That, again, can do a lot of work helping keep your team alive. The stun ability is not a bad, secondary stuff. The rest of his kit's kind of meh. But just for the ally protection, I feel like there's a lot of usage you can get out of a champion like that.
Yeah, definitely. I thought I was the only one who knew about this guy. I did a guide on him way back in the day before we knew just how powerful ally protection was. So excellent choice there, my friend.
Well, thank you very much. All right, let's move on to high elves here. And who do you have as a, you know what? Let me start this one off since you started off the last one. We'll switch it up a little bit. As far as sleeper champions, oh man, I mean, it's hard to say sleeper because I feel like this faction in particular, is super well known, right? We know a lot about these champions, so it's really hard to say sleeper. But I will say that I think a champion that gets overlooked a lot in general, and is cute. Okay, I'll give it the sleeper. I'll give the sleeper pick. I was gonna go with somebody that I think is really good and players that know, but a lot of people don't. But that's a little too obvious. Let's go real sleeper. I'm gonna go with Thanasil. Okay. Thanasil is I think, not a great champion, but for faction wars, extremely helpful because he has a major heal ability here. AoE 25%, and you get an increased defense buff. 3-turn cooldown when booked. Like, this guy can really do a lot of work keeping your team alive. The rest of his kit's solid too, right? Decreases duration of enemy buffs as an AoE, a sleep ability on the A1. None of the stuff is great. Not a great champion. It's not going to do a lot of damage for you. But really, that A2 can be enough just to keep your team alive and still trucking. And so that's one of those things that you got to kind of find that where you can. And he brings, that ability is enough for, I think, a lot of faction war teams. But who's your pick?
So I think that's a really great idea. Thanasil been in the game for a long time. I have to go with, I'm going to mention two real quick here. I'm going to go with Andrysia because she was so clutch in the faction games. She was so good. Yeah. I mean, she has the decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns, which is basically a full trip. And then 100% chance to stun on the A2 to lock somebody down.
That's
and
pretty.
Then the crit damage, not really helpful.
Agreed.
But such a good champion. And she's easy to keep alive because her base stats are awesome. Yeah. And then I have a special place in my heart for Alana.
Hold on, real quick. This passive ability from Andrysia is nothing to scoff at either. What is that? Ally protection on somebody with the lowest HP? That's pretty lowest max HP. So you're getting pretty much the same champion every time. You can protect your damage dealer, strengthen, increase defense. I'm with you. Andrysia, I've overlooked her. I'm not going to any further. That is definitely a good champion. I'm with you on that.
Good stuff. All
right. You said you had another one?
I do. I have a special place in my heart for Lana. I know he was like the most hated fusion of 2022 or something crazy like that. I see.
Oh, this guy. Him. I'm like, who? Yes. Who are we talking about?
Yes, Lana. He's so underrated. I'm not saying he's the best, okay, but he does have the ally attack with the increased crit damage on his A3. Significant. And then he has this awesome shield AoE. Mm-hmm. And the rest of his kit is fine, right? I don't think he's the best, but I love him. So I need to slip him in anytime I can.
It's phenomenal. And the rest of his kit is fine. It's fine. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, anytime you get ally attack, that's a great way just to get some significant damage out of your team. Some shield buffs for your allies is always welcome. So I totally can see how he would be great for faction wars. It is a little bit of a damning praise when you say, when you're like, well, he's great for faction wars. That's it's a pretty limited praise for a legendary champion. But I can see him being, I definitely slept on, I would say, in this faction.
Yeah. I've definitely tried. I've tried to use him in other areas of the game too. So maybe we'll get there someday, but we're not there yet.
That's fair. Well, start us off here in the sacred order. Give us a champion that you feel is a hidden gem for this faction.
So I guess I don't really think that this champion is a hidden gem, but I think he is essential if you have him on your account, and that's going to be Phoenix. He
Oh,
has
sure.
he has really good multipliers, but the thing that you really need to hone in on him is the block revive on the A1. Because
Mm.
again, this boss just slices through your champions. If you can stop the minions from being revived, it makes it so much easier. So I've got to call him out, and he's a serviceable nuker as well if you're struggling to find damage in 3v3.
100%. This guy can definitely do some work for your team, right? Yeah, I definitely Penax, for those that have been playing the game, no, this guy is, a very, very good champion. That A1 specifically is extremely good because you do get the extra hit. If you just put some debuffs on him, you get an extra hit that's giving it a very strong attack ability. And of course, the block revive makes it even better. So yeah, that's a great call. I do think a lot of players will sleep on him, especially newer players who just haven't been around long enough to really recognize how incredible he can be. Wow. Okay, now it's up to me. This is going to be interesting. The problem with this faction, I think, above maybe any of the other ones, is the rares are really bad.
They're bad.
They're just bad. Like I could call out Draconis as being a solid champion, and he's probably the best rare in this faction for this part of the game. I'm not going to though, because honestly, like the rares just aren't very good. Draconis is probably the only usable one. The one champion I think that I should call out, and this is gonna be an odd choice here, a really odd choice because I don't even use this champion that much or like at all. But there is really good potential in this champion, and like I said, we're talking sleepers, right? So, but there is really good potential in this champion to be used, and I'm actually gonna be talking about Canoness, which is a completely. Hey, I'm saying this champion is not as bad as people make her out to be, and has some real potential in this game. The aura, speed and faction crypts. Let's not forget that, right? This ability here, ally protection, increased defense, continuous heal, and when booked, this is on a 2-turn cooldown, which means you can get that back very quickly. And so that can be really useful. I've always wanted to use this champion in Clan Boss, have not successfully done so, but there is some potential here with her in this skill. The A2, AoE decreased accuracy. I'm sorry, single target, but it hits really hard. Got like a 6 multiplier. Yeah, it's actually a really hard hitting skill, and it's defensive based, so it's easier to keep her alive, build her up to keep alive. And then decrease attack on the A1. Most of this is like whatever. The big thing is that you can protect a couple of champions with this 2-turn duration, 2-turn cooldown, ally protection, increased defense, and continuous heal. And the continuous heal is on all allies, not just one champion, right?
So what you're saying is I should not have fed her on my free-to-play account.
That's kind of what I'm saying. I'm sorry to say that. Yeah. I mean, look, she's not a game-changing champion by any stretch of the imagination, but I think for Faction War especially, there's a real lot to like about her kit and what she can bring to the table. Even if it's just a continuous heal, right? Being able to have continuous heal basically on your champions for the full fight, 2-turn cooldown, 2-turn duration, AoE, right? That's really significant. And then being able to protect one squishy champion, if you have like a real strong damage dealer, like a Fenax, that could be really, really helpful as well, right? And so
and then you would need to like manual it, right? Because it's only on one person.
Yes. So basically, what would end up happening is she would, typically, I haven't, like I said, I haven't played with her extensively to get all the mechanics down with the targeting, but typically, when it comes to single target things like this, it's very much like a champion like Vergis, who I wanted to mention in the previous one, but I didn't. But similar to Vergis is that they will target the leader, and then they will target anybody, especially with that ability. They'll probably target somebody that doesn't have increased defense or doesn't have ally protection, but they generally go in team order. So they'll start with the leader and then go to the second champion, and so on down the line. Obviously, things like HP levels can affect that, I think. But generally, it's buff-based, team-based, and then buff-based. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, still a super cool sleeper, though.
Yeah, thank you. I try as much as I can. Okay, let's move on. Let's go over to Barbarians. I'll start this one off since you got that last one going for us. And Barbarians is an interesting one. Definitely some champions. There's some great rare champions in here. Some really good epic champions in here. It's kind of a bit of a mixed bag, though. I'm going to start with sleeper champion. Everybody knows War Maiden's great, so I'm not going to
True.
mentioned War Maiden. Let's go with a sleeper champion. I'm going to actually recommend Marked. And Marked, I think, is surprisingly good for this faction. And I think a lot of people will sleep on her because her kit doesn't jump out to you. But she has an AoE increased defense buff for 2 turns, and it's the big version. As a rare champion, very rare. Not to mention she has a block buffs for all champions for 1 turn. We'll extend a 3-turn cooldown. Like, this is a clan boss champion right here. Really good. The surprising part about her kit is she hits hard and can be really good getting through the waves. Now, she's not spectacular by any means, but for somebody that you bring in to support your team, she hits surprisingly hard. AoE on the A2, decreased accuracy. Not too shabby. A1 here, decreased defense. So if you build her with accuracy, she can actually do some decent work for you. If you build her with attack, she can do some decent damage for you. Or you just build her to survive, and she will help protect your team with the increased defense and the block debuff ability. It's not going to be great for everybody, but if you're really struggling to stay alive or dealing with debuffs, she might be a really good option to bring in for this faction.
That's an excellent overview and very customizable depending on your needs, which you don't get from a lot of champions.
Yeah, early levels, she's extremely good for that, like free-to-play stuff, like that AoE hit, she can be really, really, really powerful for you. Later on, her damage obviously is less impactful, but her survivability factors are still really good. Who do you have for this faction here?
You know what? I think for me, the sleeper is maybe the newest addition to this faction, Huskarl. I think that, everybody was like super down on him because of fusion overload and Barbarians doesn't need him, whatever the case might be. But This is a champion who has a solid kit all around. He has an A1 stun, admittedly not a high chance, but that's pretty typical for A1s.
Yeah.
Then he has the A2 also as an AoE stun.
Yeah.
And then you're going to love the A3. He removes all stuns from all allies and places increased defense, the big version, and increased resistance for 2 turns. That's on a 4-turn cooldown. I don't really think that his passive is going to come into play here, but the aura, 30% defense in faction crypts, I think his kit pairs really well with Syl to just lock down every wave and then use whoever you have for damage to just clean up the mess.
I honestly didn't even think about the combination with Syl, which is obviously a login champion. Everybody's going to have her. That's a great pairing because Syl has an AoE stun. And this, as I think where the passive does come into play, everybody does more damage against champions under stun, right? So even though, maybe the, immunity to stun isn't helpful, but being able to hit other people harder when they have stun, and there's so much stun in his kit, you're absolutely right. I think that is a really good champion. I never really would have thought of him as a faction war champion because of and I think specifically because of that pairing with Syl the Drake. I think that makes him especially really good. And you're right, that A3 is nice. Little increased defense, nothing wrong with that at all. Obviously with Syl, I think that is one champion that you might actually build with resistance, even, as a free-to-play kind of build. And so having a little bit of buff with that is an excellent pairing. Those two could probably duo much of this faction by themselves. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Excellent.
Right on.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, let's move on to the Galen faction and go with Ogre and Tribes. We just did a video on this. That's perfect, so go check that out. But yeah, let's go ahead and start us off. What's your sleeper champion after our nice long discussion about this?
Oh, man. Well, sleeper champion. I think the cool thing about this faction is that
they're all
so
sleepers?
many of the champions, they're either all sleepers or everybody knows about them, one or the other.
Yeah, fair enough.
One of the champions that I know I've been really wanting to try is Ogre and Jailer, because this faction lacks damage a lot of the time. And I don't even think we mentioned him in our video over on my channel, but he has really good multipliers. Obviously going to be very hard to keep alive, but if you need damage in this faction, which frequently is the case, he can definitely come in to help you out.
Yeah, actually, I'll say this, because I actually pulled him on my free-to-play, and I ended up feeding him, because, he's not that great. But what I will say is, though, especially as a very new player and free-to-play, he has a lot of stuff that's actually been really helpful for you. Not just for faction wars, right? Obviously, you're right. Got pretty good multipliers. He hits pretty decently hard. You know, not going to break the bank on him, but he can hit pretty decently hard. But he also steals a lot of buffs, removes a lot of buffs. And if you want to talk about a free-to-play early account, Magic Keep is a SOB to get through. And this guy can be really, really helpful in that, and was helpful for me early on. So definitely I can see there being some real good usage out of him in Ogre and Tribe for sure. There's two I want to point out because I feel like these two are, one's full on sleeper, and you know who I'm talking about. And then the other one I think is just incredibly valuable, and I do think people sleep on him. I slept on him, and it wasn't until I did my faction war video on this one that I realized, oh, this guy's really good. So let's start with my sleeper, and I'm going to be talking about Michaelis. Michaelis I think is really, really good. Now let's look at his base stats. Not great, right? He doesn't have huge base HP, doesn't have huge base defense, pretty slow. But if you can build those stats up, he has a passive ability that decreases the damage from all allies by 5%, and he takes that instead. It's a inbuilt kind of guardian set. And then he has a ally protection ability that when booked is on a 3-turn cooldown, provides a shield for himself and provides heal for all his allies. A really strong, good synergistic kind of kit. I like to build him if you 6-star him and build him up, which you don't have to, but you know, if you do, put a what do you call it? Bulwark mastery on him.
Oh yeah.
Now all of a sudden, that 25% ally protection with his passive ability, with the bulwark, is now a 35% ally protection. And because he has lower base stats, actually having the weaker ally protection is bad because now he doesn't die as easily either. Just a really good champion. And then he has like a nice little heal off his A1. So I like him a lot. I think he's actually really, really good as a rare champion.
Honestly, I think he's the number one find for me so far in our conversations. I think he's going to just help out a ton of players in this faction and early game in general. That's such a good find, man.
Yeah, I really like him a lot. It's one of those champions that I would actually bring into if very early levels, if I didn't have an ally protection champion for clan boss and I was really struggling, he's somebody I might consider to bring in. I don't think he's strong enough for Ultra Nightmare necessarily, but I think every level below that he can actually be really, really impactful. But moving on, I'm gonna try and keep the pacing of this bad boy going. You know, stick on target, keep it under an hour. I want to have Shatterbones. Shatterbones is the dude that I think is one of those champions that if you pull him, keep him. He's surprisingly effective. He's somebody I completely slept on when I was first playing this game, and basically up until like the last year, I didn't even realize this guy is insanely good because he's got this decreased speed ability as an AoE and a turn meter boost for your allies. He also has this AoE turn meter decrease, which is insanely strong. In fact, if you guys have ever struggled with Dragon, I think 20, you probably, or 19, one of the Dragon levels, yeah, unbelievably difficult to get through, and it's because of Shatterbone. And then that A1, of course, with an increased attack buff on all allies if it's crits. So like he brings a lot to the table for you, and I think it's just 100% somebody you should be building.
Yeah, he's definitely good for sure.
All right, we're gonna take a break here. Oh, I didn't sleep much. I got my sinuses are all clogged. I'm just gonna do a quick cut, get some water in you. Oh. Oh. All right. You ready?
All good.
Appreciate you, by the way. I know this is long. I wasn't really anticipating this, but this is gonna be. I think this is actually gonna be a good video. So nice stuff in here.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
All right. Let's move on. Lizardman faction. I think I start this one off, right? I ended the last one. Let me begin here. Sleeper champions in the Lizardman faction. Actually, this one's gonna be pretty easy. I think. Gotta be cage bound.
No.
Rare
just champion. because of your favorite skill in the game? Is that why?
I can't. I mean, look, it's not me. It's the kit, right? Let's look. Ally protection, always good. Continuous heal on himself. So okay, he's gonna protect your allies and heal himself. Great combination. 3-turn cooldown again, right? Got decreased attack as an AoE skill. That's hard to underrate, even if it's a small version, right? And then we're talking about shield on himself off the A1. Now look, this guy, the rares in this faction, not great. The epics in this faction, a little bit of mixed bag. but I would not say like this is absolutely a champion to build. I'm just saying this is someone that can help you through faction wars that a lot of people are going to sleep on, not realize that he does bring some things to the table. That's where I'm going to leave it there. That's a pretty big caveat. I know,
I
but
did
I'm gonna leave it there.
actually add him to my faction war team on the free to play. So you are right. He is definitely helpful.
Yes.
And
yes.
I'm wondering how far we can push it with him. Can we clear the faction with him? I might have to try that.
I'm actually really interested to hear the answer to that. I would love to know if this is somebody that you can clear the faction with. I haven't done it. I have one built out. It's something I need to try at some point here, but haven't done yet. But yeah, that was my sleeper. What's your choice here for this faction?
I think because this is a champion that everyone can get, he actually has become underrated.
I agree.
And in addition to that, he was buffed. And I don't think people realize he was buffed. Like, he used to be much, much worse.
I know who you're talking about, and it is a significant buff. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. And so, obviously, the champion we're talking about is Broadmaw. Yeah, Broadmaw. And I know his chance is only 45% with books on the A1, but it hits surprisingly often. Like, it's enough that you can somewhat rely on it. But people, I think they skip over the fact that this is a turn meter fill on the A2.
Yes.
Because you get the increased crit rate and the increased speed, but the turn meter fill is immediate and it's on a 3-turn cooldown. So you can build your champions with less crit rate if you need to. You can boost them up in 2 different ways there. But obviously the key here is the revive on death. You know, the revive 2 random dead allies, and they place block damage. So it's actually a really good revive, because a lot of times what happens is they get revived and then they die right again.
Yeah.
With this, you know, at least you're guaranteed 1 turn where they can't die. So you
100%.
wait till the last second on the boss, and then you revive, then you kill him. He's so clutch, and he goes in basically every team.
Not only that, there's a secret room where I think you need Lizardmen, and Broadmaw is the king for getting through that. One other thing I'd like to point out, not only is this a revive of 2 allies, but it's on a 4-turn cooldown when you book it. Most revives in this game are on 5-turn cooldowns. You can find anybody that doesn't less than that. You found a little bit of a gem there, and Broadmaw is one of those gems. The change to his kit's insanely good. You're right. And you don't need any books in the A1, right? A2, A3. That's really all you're looking for. I think that's absolutely you're right. That's 100% the champion everybody should be having in their teams. I'm actually looking to use him on my free to play. I'm kind of excited about it.
Sure.
Like, he's going to be really, really impactful. Okay, let's move on. Skinwalkers, your favorite faction, I'm sure.
It is.
What is the sleeper that you have for us here?
All right. Well, that is tough, because we're hurting for some usable champions a lot of times. They've fleshed out the legendaries like no one's business, and now we have so many amazing legendaries in the faction.
Agreed.
But I guess I should plug my Yaga video. No, just kidding.
Okay.
I guess I'm gonna call out Flesh Terror, because
wait, what?
Flesh Terror.
Flesh Terror. Yes. And I fed my rip. I had a ripper on my free to play, and I fed him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, no. Okay, Flesh Terror. Flesh Terror is a great suggestion, though.
I will admit I do have a ripper at 60 on my account, but I'm not going to call him as an underrated or sleeper champion. What this faction lacks is healing, revives. We have some of that now, but his A2,
he's one of the best heals in the game.
It is 30% of their max HP, and if you have buffs, it's going to increase the duration. You're not going to lower the cooldown at all, so you don't need to book him. And this is one of the ways people survive to clear this faction.
He is one of the best champions in this faction. Yeah, great.
His A1 is not great, and his A3 can be helpful. Yep. It decrease the duration of all enemy buffs, increase the duration. He has an decrease thing going on there, but it's the heal that really makes him, worth putting in your team. Mm-hmm. So I think he's definitely a sleeper.
back in the day, I used to see some clan boss teams that would use Flesh Tear because of the increased buffs, decreased debuffs ability, and he's just insanely unique in that sense. I don't know that there's any other champions that do both of those. I think maybe there's
I don't think so.
I think there's a new Sylvan that maybe does that. I think Duodan maybe does that. I could be wrong about that though. But he's insanely good at that one ability of his. He hits like a wet noodle, which is the negative with them and why we don't use them in clan boss.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
So bad. Also, everything's on a 4-turn cooldown, which can make it a little bit tougher. But like, you're right. I think this is absolutely a great champion that people should be looking at, if nothing else, just for the heal, even if you don't have a lot of buffs on your team. That is a really good call out. My call out, I think you're going to be surprised. I think everybody's going to be surprised unless you saw my video on this, but Skinwalker faction?
Yeah.
Lammiebur.
Really?
Lammiebur is insane for this faction.
All right, hit me.
It's all about the heals, right? So first off, ally speed boost, right? 10% is not a lot, but you know, any lead in faction is great, and speed definitely. Then we're talking about this heal. Target ally, 25% of their max HP, great. Revive on death, great. 5-turn cooldown, nothing crazy going on. A2, AoE attack, and continuous heal on all allies. I don't need much more than that. And then, you know, turn meter fill on the A1. That's it. The thing is, you got to get them going fast. But if you can get them going fast, you have a big heal, or you have a continuous heal, but it's 2-turn duration. So it stays on everybody. So people are healing at least half of their turns with that, right? And then
I never noticed it was 2 turns and not 1 turn.
Yeah, and then you've got a target heal every 5 turns after that with that revive on death, which isn't a bad thing in a faction that I don't think has any revivers that can actually be pretty. There is a reviver.
What?
Is there a reviver?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Right. With one reviver in it. But I found Lammiebur. I was able to do 21 with Lammiebur in the team. I don't remember what else I put in it. I'm sure with a lot of decent gear and decent champions, but the idea is that this guy can actually do that for you, help keep your team alive, and especially early on when you have no healing and no way of reviving without Hofferys, you're gonna need somebody like that. For a rare champion, I think pretty underrated.
Did you 6-star him?
I did.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, great call out there.
To be fair, I 6-star everybody, so it's not like that's not a big thing. If I'm gonna use them in anything, I'll just 6-star them and get that done with. But definitely, an interesting champion, and I think somebody that gets slept on, and maybe it's not a game changer. I'm not recommending anybody building the 6 stars, but if you're at the end game and you're like, I need to get over that hump, that might be somebody that would help you with that. Or early on, don't feed them right away. Use them for faction wars.
Yeah, right on.
Let's move on. Orcs. Orc faction has some interesting champions. The rares are horrible, like the worst rares in this game. In my opinion, it's just really disappointing. As far as it's this hard to say somebody that is underrated for this faction because I think they're all pretty well known. I think one champion that might be underrated would be Two Hawk. I think that he probably gets ignored a little bit and shouldn't. I don't use this champion. I don't love this champion, but when we're talking about faction wars, you kind of got to use what you have. This guy kind of does that, right? A1, 2-hit, increase cooldowns, whatever, yada yada yada. But he hits, decently hard, not great. More importantly, A2, decrease speed, AoE, increase speed buff on himself, and heals himself. So the decreased speed of the enemy, I think, is really the big thing. Increase speeding himself. And then the A3, stealing turn meter. Done, right? Again, we're talking about control. And turn meter is a great way to get control. That decreased speed by itself is, I think, significant enough to be worthy of inclusion. Not to mention, the passive where he takes less damage as his HP gets lower. It can be really helpful and provide some synergy in there. So that's my pick. I don't love him.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad you called him out. He was one of the 2 that was on my list, actually. He was in my faction war clear, and he has really good multipliers. He hits hard. So you put some accuracy and some damage stats on him, he can really help you, especially if you're lacking damage.
Agreed.
I would say for me, the guy that has impressed me the most is the new guy, Trumbor, and you're going to love him. His A1 is super interesting. Leech and Weaken on the A1.
Nice. That's nice.
Yes.
Sexy.
On the A2, he has this like damage ability that's like a half cleanse. He removes debuffs from your team and adds that to his damage. Actually, decent multipliers if you build him like that. And then your favorite thing, A3, ally protection, increased defense. And I've been loving him on my free to play. He's just been really, really good. And he's a really good addition to this faction as well. Some very much needed abilities like defensive, protective. He kind of has like the whole kit. He's got some debuffing. He's got some cleansing and damage. He's got some protection. He kind of does a little bit of everything for you.
100%. Actually, I really love this kit. I think you're right. Obviously, he sounds like an amazing clan boss champion. Weaken, Leech, increased defense, ally protection. Not to mention the baby cleanse here. I think could be really, really useful too. There's a lot to like about this champion. I'm with you 100% on this. Actually, probably, man, I'm gonna have to build him for clan boss now. I just realized that. I'm like, this is a perfect guy. Put him on a 4/3 ratio. He cleanses a stun and does damage and protects you. Like, absolutely perfect. Yeah, that's great. Great call out there. Absolutely, someone you should be bringing in if you can. Talk to us about, as we go into the corrupted faction. Talk to us about Demonspawn. Who are we looking at here?
Demonspawn. Sorry about that. Demonspawn is such an interesting and stacked faction at times, and at other times it can feel underwhelming depending on the champions that you have.
100%.
I'm torn as to who to call out here. I think who I'm gonna pick is Akoth, because in a number of coaching sessions recently, I've reminded new players that everybody can get this champion. And I think that that's an underrated aspect of the game. All you have to do is run some normal Doom Tower secret rooms. You're going to get Helmet, and then you're going to get Akoth. He can help you out in the Spider Dungeon if you need the AoE HP burn on the A2. And then he can do anything that you need him to do, for your faction war team. He 100%. Has the shield, he has the A1 that is probably just going to do some damage for you.
Hey, but decreased crit rate, that is massive for the bosses,
Right.
That's a great call out.
I think that he's a really good champion, and just I've noticed a lot of people forgetting about him or not realizing they're going to get him soon enough for it to matter.
100%. It's one of the funny things about having like an end game account. Why I'm so thankful to be going back to free to play is that your perspective changes, right? I'm like, I have him built, but I have him leveled and ranked, but I've never used him. I don't need to use him. He's never going to be an advantage for me. But if you're free to play or struggling with these factions, that could be a huge, huge addition to your team. 100%. Yeah. That's a great call out there on Akoth. There are actually, and you're right, there's so many good champions in this faction. The one I'm going to call out is going to be a rare champion. We're going to talk about Abyssal here. Just one of my favorite champions in this game. Another one, much like Drakul, who brings this increased defense and increased attack all in one skill. It's a very rare ability, but that means all your champions are going to be benefiting if they're not HP based, right? All of them are going to benefit. But more importantly, he has a very solid heal on an A2 that books down with 3-turn cooldown. And maybe most importantly, he has an AoE on his A1 ability. And so maybe you don't build him for damage. Maybe you just put a stun set on him and help CC the waves. So you're getting the heal, you're getting the CC, you're getting buffs. It's a lot to like. Plus he places block buffs, which is a solid debuff, right? He's not going to break any bank or anything like that, but he just brings enough utility to be very, very useful for this faction. And he has a speed aura for faction crypts, which makes him really, really ideal to bring in as a lead champion. So I really like him, and I feel like there's a lot of good pairings with him. I love the Akoth call out, though. That was a good one. I like that one a lot.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited about Undead. You're never going to see my Undead pick coming, so go ahead. I'm going to leave you in anticipation here. You're not going to see this one coming.
All right, fantastic. Well, I will be waiting for that with bated breath. For Undead faction, this is one of the bigger factions, lots of good champions to actually choose from, both in rares and epics, and obviously legendaries. And so I have a lot of possible choices here. The one I'm going to go for, though, is going to be a rare champion, just to keep it a little bit, more free to play, kind of friendly. I'm going to talk about Doomscreech. I think Doomscreech is supremely underrated for this faction. And it really comes down to his A2 ability. This is a big one. AoE, increased defense, the big version for all allies, and a massive 30% turn meter fill, which is absolutely huge in this game. 3-turn cooldown, such a good champion. Now, I've built him up, but he's got like weird multipliers on all the skills, right? His A1 is attack and HP. His A2 isn't even a damage skill. His A3 is HP. I don't like the rest of his kit. All I care about is this A2 ability. I mean, his A3 gives him actually a pretty sizable shield. That's not a bad thing at all. And his A1 decreased accuracy, fine, whatever. It's really just this turn meter boost, increased defense, can be a game changer for you. The other thing I would point out, even though he has horrible base defense, he's got 20k base HP. He's like a real strong HP base. So that's my champion that I would say, hey, keep an eye on this guy for Faction Wars. What's your go-to though?
Yeah, so I want to mention one epic and one legendary. Let's start with the legendary real quick. That is Elgaius.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Elgaius is S tier for this faction. Everybody is so down when they pull him, and he just makes the faction easy mode because he locks down with his A2 that skills on cooldown for those Valkyrie waves. So you don't need to book him. You don't need to put him to 6 stars. You can run him at 50. In fact, it's preferred to run him at 50 because of the passive. You want him to die first because then he prevents his own death. So on the boss that ignores all the HP, you don't die. And then you can heal him back up.
That's pretty massive. Okay, I see that. Excellent.
So
excellent.
And then the second one that I want to mention is actually a champion I really love, is an epic, and his name is Balthus Drauglord.
Balthus is really good.
This kit is odd, okay? But you don't really need to be concerned about what the kit is. You just need to be concerned that the A3 has a provoke that's very helpful, and he has really good damage multipliers and really good base stats. So in a faction where you can easily lack for damage, he can come in and can do a little bit of control as well as a little bit of damage. And his affinity is the right color to beat those stupid Valkyries on that end level. So he's been real clutch and super underrated.
100%. I think this is actually a great call out. This is a champion I use in like the Doom Tower secret rooms a lot, because he is such a good, strong damage dealing champion. The provoke, even though a single target, comes in really handy, and it gives him a nice little heal. So that's a really good ability. The A2, solid AoE, and honestly, decreased crit rate is an underrated debuff, because when you basically every champion you go against, they don't have gear, they just have stats, and so they all have this base of, I think it's 30% crit rate or 15% crit rate. And so when you put decreased crit rate on them, they won't crit on your champions anymore. Really underrated positive ability to bring in, and especially as an AoE. And then, of course, A1 decreased attack is really nice. You're right. Great kit. Great choice. Love it. Let's move on to the, Dark Elves faction.
Yep,
this one, a lot of people struggle with this faction at the higher stages, right? And I totally get it. There's not a lot going on as far as revive and healing, especially. A lot of control. I'm sorry, not a lot of control, but a lot of debuffs, right, in this faction. And so who's your sleeper for this faction that you like to use?
So, my gut was saying Sylar, but I think people know that she's good. You can put her in a stun set. She does the turn meter manipulation, but that is popular. A key for a lot of people. But I think the one that I need to call out here is Painkeeper. Because people only think about her as a clan boss champion. Was that who you were going to pick?
You stole her from me. No, it's a great choice. Great choice. 100% I'm with you on this. But yeah, go tell us about why she's so great.
She's a healer. her A2 is like the best healing ability outside of the legendaries in this faction.
Yeah.
And then her A1 just boosts her turn meter so she can cycle back through, and her A3 decreases the cooldown of everybody else's skills. So I just like, if you have her, she probably goes in your team.
I 100% agree. Healing is the hardest part in this faction, and she's one of the few that does it and does it well. So yeah, 100%. I think even if you, it almost doesn't matter what stage you're at, unless you can nuke everything out before they get a chance to attack you, or you have some great legendaries. Kind of need a Painkeeper, which is an odd thing to say about a rare champion, but I agree with you.
Stealing your thunder there.
Not at all. I think that's definitely a really good choice. I'm a little bit torn as to who to pick. That was really my goal there with that one. I don't want to name another rare. There are several good rares in this faction that are good. But we're gonna have a little technical glitch while I figure out exactly who I'm gonna choose. So back from that, I figured out who I wanted to choose. I had a couple ideas, but I just wanted to double check the kit before I recommended them. And the person I'm going to be talking about is Captain Temelia, who, I mean, I don't know, how do I say this? I've never used this champion, but I know this champion's going to be good for this faction because as
and you're right though. You're definitely right. She's going to be good, but why is she going to be good though?
Because again, the healing that we're missing, right? Healing protection is something that's very lacking in this faction. And the reason why nobody uses Temelia is because she's not good anywhere else, really. But here she's going to be very helpful, right? A2, increased defense on all allies, so protection, and an AoE heal. This books to a 3-turn cooldown. It's pretty solid ability right there. Also, this heal is based on her max HP, which means you build her with really high HP. The heal only gets better. So that's a really good ability there. And then the A3 has an ally protection buff for 2 turns. 4-turn cooldown, only takes 1 book for that. Pretty nice. So both those abilities right there are going to be great for keeping everybody alive. The A1 is fine, but more importantly, it puts a continuous heal on her if she crits. So build her with high HP, build her with 100% crit rate. She's going to be able to heal herself to stay alive. She's going to protect everybody else to keep them alive and heal them. It's a kind of a perfect kit for Faction Wars for this particular faction because healing is so desperate. I think that there's a lot to kind of like about that. There's only one damage dealing ability, so she's not going to be great for that. But as far as protection and healing, I think she can be really, really good for you.
Yeah, right on.
All right. Moving on, Knight Revenant faction. I get to start this bad boy off here. And thank you. I'm actually going to, there's some decent rares in this faction for sure. But there's some decent rares, I would say. Not great for Faction Wars per se. The one champion I want to call out is I think maybe one of the more important ones to actually build up for this. And I'm going to talk about Senesha. I don't think this is a sleeper, to be fair, but I feel like Knight Revenant is the hardest faction to get through. And so sleepers, I don't know that there are many sleepers, and it's hard to work them into your kit. And the reason why Senesha is so good, not only does she have very good multipliers on A1, which will provide an extra hit, which makes them extremely good multipliers. And it's really, this A2 is pretty solid with putting a skill on cooldown and a target heal, but it's really comes down to the A3 ability, which equalizes HP. And this is the faction where at the very boss, the boss does an HP swap with one of your champions, which makes it so hard. Being able to equalize the HP of your champions means even if one champion's really low, she can fix that really quickly and heals everybody. And that can be a life-saving ability. The fact that she does damage on top of that is really only a bonus in AoE damage. So a stun set or something like that will go a long way with her as well. And I feel like this is, unfortunately, in a lot of respects, but one of those champions you kind of have to beat this faction. But
yeah, no, I think when Nub and I were talking about Knights Rev, we basically said she's essential for your team. So you're right on point there. If you have her, she goes on your team.
Yeah.
But my call out is going to be a rare. It's actually my favorite rare in the entire game, and he is an absolute all-star for this faction, and that is my boy Guardian. Have you seen this kit? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So his kit really synergizes well with itself, but the best part about it is his A1. His A1 has a decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns. So when the Valkyries throw up their shield, he has a counterattack ability that strips it right back off. So when you go into that wave in Faction Wars, sometimes what happens is the Valkyries go, buff, buff, buff. Each of them puts up their counterattack shield, and then he counterattacks all of them and strips it right back off.
I love that. I've never thought about that for this faction, and you're 100% right. That is a massive ability. I like it. I mean, and it seems like it would synergize pretty well with the enemy boss as well because of the block buffs ability. Does that prevent the boss from healing your buffs?
No, you pretty much want to not put the block buffs up, unfortunately, because then he will throw the block buffs back at you, and then you can't put up your own buffs. But I thought the same thing too when I tested him. Cool. So it's not, you're not wrong there.
All right. Well, I mean, but you're right about the Valkyrie waves, which is probably the hardest, one of the hardest parts about this faction. Being able to deal that, the block buffs will obviously be a nice addition for that. The fact that he puts counterattack on himself and continuous heal and block debuffs, and then can remove those or reduce the duration of those buffs when he does counterattack. That's a really good call out. I love that one. Excellent.
Yeah, and then I ran him in a toxic set as well, just to add more damage, or you could do destroy.
Now you're just being a little bit extra. Like, calm it down over there, okay? Calm it down. That was excellent. Oh, man, I love it. We learn something new every day. I'm learning something new. All right, we are on the last faction group. We're talking about the Nyrison? Okay. The Union. There's no I in there. It's not Nyrisian.
I don't know. That's how I say it.
I love it. It's from now on the Nyrisian Union. Join or be destroyed. We're talking about the dwarves. Here. You start us off. Who's your most underrated champ? Is it Acrisia? It's Acrisia, right? That's the one.
It is. She's so underrated. You can't even.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Who are we going with here?
There's so many actually underrated champions in this faction, but the one I want to talk about is actually the new girl Morag. I have been absolutely loving her. At first, I was just mad because her A3, you only team up with 2 allies. And it's just like, well, I don't want to use her. That's stupid, Plarium. Why did you do that? But her A1 hits reasonably hard. And her A2 does this AoE strengthen, which is just really helpful for keeping your team alive. And then with that ally team up, you get some bonus damage. And if an enemy's killed, she gets an extra turn. So I like her, and I think a lot of people will have her as like a leftover from the fusion. If you didn't get to complete the fusion previously. I think that she just slots really easily in there until you get to level 21. She can be a really hard carry. Unfortunately, that boss on 21 ignores all of your defense in a defense-based faction and a defense-based champion. But for levels 1 through 20, I think she's going to be amazing, and she can be usable in other areas as well.
I like this call out. I like that kit. I hadn't really looked at her too deeply before, but 100% that's good. The cool thing about even like ally attack ability like this with the extra turn is a lot easier to kill a champion when you're bringing 2 other people to do it for you, right? And so, that extra turn is a lot easier to proc. I usually don't like that extra, whenever you get a bonus thing with killing somebody, I don't usually like it because it's so hard to do. But in this situation, you can almost count on that. And I think that's really good. Excellent. That's a good one. I like that one a lot. I'm going to talk about, there are so many good champions in this faction. This faction, I think, I think it has the best rares in the game. In this faction particularly, there's so many amazing ones in here. The one I want to talk about, though, is the one that really helped me actually get through this faction 21 for the first time, and that's Avir the Archmage.
Oh, nice.
Alchemage, excuse me. But yeah, this guy can't hold his staff, but he can keep your team alive, and that's kind of what I love about him. He's got this A3 is great, right? Turn meter fill and heal, AoE heal.
Yeah.
And it's based off his max HP. So again, you build him higher HP, better heal. Extremely, extremely good for your team. I love that 4-turn cooldown. The A2, AoE hit, decrease attack, decrease speed if the enemy has poisons, right? really nice, not too shabby. A1 poison ability. Now the negative, obviously, not low chance to land any of these debuffs. The great thing
That's okay though.
it's all about that A3. When you get turn meter fill and heal all in one thing, that's a really nice ability right there, and can be enough to kind of keep your team going and alive. When you factor in that he does have some debuff stuff, he does have some AoE abilities, you can make him pretty useful for your team. And again, if you build him really high HP, that heal can be pretty sizable and really effective for your squad. So that's the champion I like. If you want an epic version of it, look at Runekeeper Dazzurk. Very similar type of kit, very similar type of abilities. Extremely good. I almost shouted him out here, but I do feel like people know about him already, so I went with the rare option. But like those two are amazingly good champions together.
For
Shadowkin. Shadowkin is fun. It's an interesting faction with some good champions, some really bad champions. I'm really interested to hear who you call out as being a valuable addition. The one I want to point out is somebody I just pulled on my free to play, so I'm excited to play with him. I haven't yet, but looking at his kit, I know that it's going to be somebody that's valuable, because just as we liked Marked as a champion for the Barbarian faction, Odachi, I think, is going to be really, really good for the Shadowkin faction. He has a very similar ability. It's the small version of the increased defense buff, but it's still a good buff, and a block buff ability, both on a 3-turn cooldown. That is a really strong ability just by itself. When you factor in the rest of his kit, where he has an AoE attack and puts a shield on himself, where he has a single target attack on the A1, but it's a provoke ability, and that he's a defensive based champion, a pretty nice little kit there. The aura is not going to help you, but he's got good base stats too. 15k HP isn't bad for a rare. 1100 defense is really good for a rare. I like this champion. I think it could be really, really helpful for Faction Wars.
Yeah, great one. I have an epic that probably no one has ever pulled out of their vault before, and that is Umitogi.
Umitogi,
right in the middle at the top.
Oh my gosh, really?
This chick, I'm telling you what.
Break it down.
You can use a lot of champions in levels 1 through 20, but 21, where the boss ignores your defense, is hard. So challenging. So what she does is very unique, okay? She has a passive.
Oh my god.
She has a passive to completely block the hit of incoming damage to 0. She also counterattacks, but whatever, that's fine. But then, after she takes that first hit, and you're like, okay, well then she's going to die next turn. No. She puts a perfect veil on herself on her A3 to protect herself the following turn, so you can either heal her up or get the boss to target another champion. So it's like a little boss targeting cheese, so you can clear level 21 if you don't have one of the revivers.
I love this. This is what I think the whole point of this video is, finding these champions that maybe we just ignored. We kept in the vault, as you said. Right. There is I remember reading her kit the first time and going, there's a lot of synergy going on here. I don't know how to use her. And I'm so glad that you're pointing this out for Faction Wars, right? She has terrible base stats as far as surviving.
She's so bad.
So bad. 13,000 HP
makes her survivable, though.
Exactly. That passive ability is really, really strong, even though it's got a cooldown on it, right? Still 2-turn cooldown, not bad, but you're right about that A3 ability. Not only does it give you the perfect veil, increase speed, turn meter fill, so you get through those 2-turn cooldown on that passive a heck of a lot faster. That's a really nice ability there. Love it. I love this. I love it. I think that's a great call out right there. All right, let's move on. Start us off with the last faction, the new bad boy on the block, Sylvan Watchers. We don't have Faction Wars for them yet. I know that. You know that. Who do we think? Who do we think is going to be good for Faction Wars out of this faction?
I honestly think that they've set up this faction really well for success.
Agreed.
I really do. I think very few of these champions are not usable. I think the one that I'm excited to use.
Before you get to that, let's because there's so few champions in this faction right now. First off, tell me, is Kate gonna be valuable for Faction Wars? The one rare that we have in this faction.
Oh man,
will Kate be useful?
She's an attack-based champion, but if she can manage to kill somebody, she does perfect veil herself to protect herself. So I think it's definitely worth keeping a copy of her, but I'm real hesitant about it.
Fair enough. Okay, so now we got that kind of laid down. I feel the same way, by the way. I don't really think she's going to be valuable outside of maybe the first 3 or 4 levels, right?
Yeah.
Which one of these epics you're about to tell us which one you think you're really excited to use and like think is going to be really good? Break it down for us. Which is the one that you're going with here?
I mean, it starts with the aesthetics, but his kit also is good to match it up, and that's Dundan.
Yep.
I think that guy with the A2 AoE shield is just going to be super clutch. And he increases the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then the A3 with the taunt, strength, and counterattack, like that taunt buff forces them to attack you, and he's gonna be tanky. Like you're gonna stack him with HP probably. Yeah. And I think that he's gonna be really good for you.
Let's not. Here's the thing: the full synergy of this champion continues with that A1 because it counterattacks, but also removes a random debuff from all allies. So you get a nice natural cleanse ability, especially with the counterattack. I actually used this champion when I was first like looking at Sand Devil and trying to figure out, how do I go through that. He was incredibly helpful. The strengthen buff, the buff extension was really, really good. Not to mention the cleanse off that A1 ability. Obviously, later levels, it doesn't quite work out as well. You need kind of specific things going on there. But for the early stages of Sand Devil, really, really helpful. I love that.
I'm excited to hear who you're gonna pick.
Actually, who I'm gonna pick, I love White Dryad Nia. I think she's phenomenal and will be really, really good. But the champion I want to point out is somebody I just pulled on my free to play, who I think is absolutely insane. Didn't realize it till I started playing with him on my free to play, and now I'm like all in on this champion. I'm talking about Mr. Dahi. Phenomenal champion, and going to be essential for this because he has an AoE decreased defense, which is clutch, right? And you really need that to help get through the waves quickly. A3 gives himself increased attack, gives himself increased accuracy, and then gives himself an extra turn, right? This is on a 4-turn cooldown, but that extra turn really means it's happening every 3 turns. His A2, AoE decreased defense, and if he lands it on everybody, and it does book to 100%, gets an extra turn. Right? And that skill hits hard. And then what does an A1 do? Oh, yeah. It has a chance for an extra turn on it. Right? It's like everything in this is just leading to that relentless kind of ability where he's just going again and again and again. And not just going again and again, but cycling his skills as he's doing that, which I think is just a massive, massive bonus here. So for me, this guy I think is going to be extremely good. Hits really hard. Has the AoE decreased defense. Gets lots of turns. I think he's going to be pretty essential getting through this faction, at least initially. Yeah,
I love it. Extra turn king right there.
Really is. So hey, that's a faction. That's everybody. That's all the different factions. That's at least 1, sometimes 2 sleeper in every one of these factions that you guys can use. Big kudos out to you guys if you stuck with us for the full hour, and I can't believe it's been an hour. And thank you, MTG, for sticking with me for that time. This was not planned to be this long. But my dude has been like a super champ, kept the energy up the full fight time, had some really good suggestions. I'm just really excited about using some of these guys. Guardian is the one that I really have stuck in my head now. So my next 60 on my main account will be Guardian for sure, just so I can utilize him. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another one.
100%. It's great. Yeah, like everything you're saying made so much sense to me. But anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for coming by. I'm going to have all of his information. I'll have his YouTube link, the video we did together. It's going to be linked down below in the pinned comment and description of this video. So please go check it out. It was a really great conversation, and check out his series. It sounds amazing. If it's anything like the collab we did, everything going forward, it should be absolutely essential watching for everybody out there. Thanks again, man, for stopping by. And yeah, that's what we got. I don't know if you want to say anything at the end here, but
yeah, my pleasure. I'm just so blessed and thankful to be here. I think we discovered and shared a lot of awesome picks here. So make sure you guys share this video, because a lot of people need to hear this. There's a lot of people trying to clear faction wars in 2023, and this is one of the best videos to help everybody out. So thanks for having me, man. It's been an absolute blast.
Absolute pleasure. Guys, don't forget to subscribe till next we meet. I'm the Deadwood Jedi.